Welcome everybody to Monday Night Bible Study. Before we get started here tonight, why don't we have a word of prayer? Lord God, we just give you thanks once again as we come to your word, that you have given us your word, that through it you've revealed yourself to us, you've revealed your purpose for us, you've revealed your love for us. And we thank you so much that that love included the sacrifice of your Son, was chiefly shown to us in the sacrifice of your Son, that we might be able to have that right relationship with you restored. Ask now as we study your word that you would just open our minds and hearts to your revelation of yourself. We thank you for this in the name of your Son, Jesus, by the Spirit. Amen. Wanted to start a series. I don't know how many weeks this is going to go, but I want to talk about Isaiah chapter 40. I was looking at some stuff, just kind of things that speak to me about what are we grounded in, what are we rooted in. And some of you know this from past Bible studies. One of the passages in the Old Testament that I really like is Isaiah 40. It's the beginning of a group of chapters, sometimes referred to as a trial of the false gods. And what it does is it talks about who God is and who is not God. And it's just one of those things that pretty much in all times, I think it's good for us to be mindful of this and to know that this is the truth that we are grounded in. So I'm going to read for tonight all of Isaiah chapter 40, and then we'll talk a little bit about the beginning of it, and then in subsequent weeks we'll look through more and more of the chapter. So beginning in Isaiah 40, verse 1. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and proclaim to her that her service has been completed, that her sin has been paid for, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice of one calling, in the wilderness prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level, the rugged places a plain, and the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all people will see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice says, cry out. And I said, what shall I cry? All people are like grass, and all their faithfulness is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers and the flowers fall, because the breath of the Lord blows on them. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers and the flowers fall, but the word of our God endures forever. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on a high mountain. You who bring good news to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout. Lift it up, do not be afraid. Say to the towns of Judah, here is your God. See, the sovereign Lord comes with power, and he rules with a mighty arm. See, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms, carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand has marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales and the hills in a balance? Who can fathom the spirit of the Lord, or instruct the Lord as his counselor? Whom did the Lord consult to enlighten him, and who taught him the right way? Who was it that taught him knowledge, or showed him the path of understanding? Surely the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are regarded as dust on the scales. He weighs the islands as though they were fine dust. Lebanon is not sufficient for altar fires, nor its animals enough for burnt offerings. Before him all the nations are as nothing. They are regarded by him as worthless and less than nothing. With whom then will you compare God? To what image will you liken him? As for an idol, a metalworker casts it. A goldsmith overlays it with gold and fashions silver chains for it. A person too poor to present such an offering selects wood that will not rot. They look for a skilled worker to set up an idol that will not topple. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to naught and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground than he blows on them and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. To whom will you compare me, or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord. My case is disregarded by my God. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is an everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. We need to remember that we truly serve an awesome God, and that the awesome God who is the only one that we should serve. When you look through the book of Isaiah, a lot of the chapters before this, and there is a lot of hopeful prophecy in it, but it's a lot of warnings about judgments to come on Israel for their lack of faithfulness. We've looked in previous studies about how Israel over and over again was disobedient. We see how Gentiles, and a lot of times we ourselves, over and over again are disobedient. And God brought judgment as both a punishment and a corrective. And sometimes in that punishment, we lose sight of the fact that it is corrective. It's to call us back. It's to remind us what we've given up. And so when we look back at the first couple verses in this passage of Isaiah, it opens with comfort. Comfort my people, says your God. They've been in judgment. They've been swept away. They've been rebuked. They've been on the receiving end of my rod, my punishment. But now, speak tenderly to Jerusalem. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed, that her sin has been paid for, and that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. Her sin has been paid for, the punishment carried out. Now proclaim comfort. When God sends judgment, and there's a lot of times we certainly deserve judgment, and his wrath against us is a righteous wrath because we've rebelled against a holy God. None of that negates the fact that we were created to be loved by him and to love him in return. And that's the relationship that he calls us back to. That's the relationship that the Messiah came to set right. If you remember early in Mark's gospel, he quotes from these verses in the beginning of Isaiah 40. He starts with a voice of one calling, actually verse 3 that we're not really getting to in this commentary. But Mark is talking about Jesus, and he's talking about this book of the Bible that talks about how great and how awesome God is, and what the fulfillment of that purpose is looking like is what Mark is telling us. God says it here. Comfort my people, says your God. When God punishes sin, it's because he's just, not because he is temperamental and petty and spiteful. He wants us to be with him. He's done amazing things through the Son on the cross to make that happen. And I think it's really good to go back now, and we're going to dissect this passage more in the coming weeks and look at just who God is, how awesome he is, and what our proper place is before Him. I'll leave you to ponder these thoughts for this week. Again, I hope everybody stays safe, take care of yourselves, and until we do this again, God bless.